Roger, I'm curious, do you ever sing for children?
Yes, sometimes. There's a song that I really love. I forget who wrote it. It's called Waltzing with Bears. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, it's a lovely song.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes.
You want to play it?
Sing it.
Okay, I'll do my interpretation. I'm not sure if it's exactly the way they wrote it or not, but
I'll help you.
Wah, 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 waltzing with bears. Ratty bears, shaggy bears, fatty bears too. There's nothing on earth Uncle Walter won't do, so he can go waltzing, wah, 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 waltzing, so he can go waltzing, waltzing with bears. Well, I got up in the middle of the night. I tiptoed in and I turned on the light. And to my surprise, there was no one in sight. My Uncle Walter goes dancing at night. He goes wah, 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 waltzing with bears. Ratty bears, shaggy bears, fatty bears too. There's nothing on earth Uncle Walter won't do, so he can go waltzing, wah, 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 waltzing, so he can go waltzing, waltzing with bears. We gave Uncle Walter a new coat to wear. When he came home, it was covered with hair. And lately I've noticed several new tears. My Uncle Walter goes dancing with bears. He goes wah, 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 waltzing with bears. Ratty bears, shaggy bears, fatty bears too. There's nothing on earth Uncle Walter won't do, so he can go waltzing, wah, 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 waltzing, so he can go waltzing, waltzing with bears.
It's a wonderful song. Can't remember who wrote it.
No, I think it's a trio. I can't remember their names.
Contemporary?
Yeah, contemporary.
I'm going to broker the deal right here. Pete and Roger's Children's Garden of Song and Rhyme.
Ooh, sounds great.
Get together, fellas, wherever and however. Pete, I'm going to take advantage of the next few minutes to ask you for, here we go with a photography analogy again, for snapshots, top of the head, first impression comments about this list of names that I'm about to throw at you, okay? You up for that?
I'll try.
This is called the lightning round on Mixed Bag Radio. Let's start with Woody. Let's start with Woody Guthrie.
He'll be known, as long as there's a human race, as one of the great songwriters and original thinkers. I class him along with Robert Burns of Scotland and Taras Shevchenko, the great Ukrainian singer, or Issa, the great Japanese composer of haiku. Original poets whose words will never be forgotten as long as there's a human race.
John Hammond.
Oh, the man from a very rich family. His great-grandfather was Cornelius Vanderbilt, but who loved jazz and had the great self-confidence to go walking as a white man down the streets of the black communities in the South and finding great musicians to bring up north and make famous.
We talked about him in just one context. I'd just like another glimpse, another part of the prism for Bob Dylan.
An extraordinarily creative and thoughtful man, raised in a small town, but was going to keep his independence from anybody, whether it was the left or the right or the upside down, the male or the female or whoever, the famous or the infamous, he was going to keep his independence.
Johnny Cash.
Oh, my gosh. What a talent. And a very sincere guy. And he had a heritage which is largely unknown. He was part Native American, I think Cherokee, and very conscious of the fact that parts of his ancestry had their land taken away from them by these invaders.
Arlo Guthrie.
An extraordinary sense of humor, and knew how to bring out the unexpected in unexpected times and unexpected places.
Deliciously, too. I'm sure you're familiar with Suzanne Vega.
Not that well known.
Okay.
Except
I have a story.
She's just one of, I would say, if there's a human race here in 100 years, it will be women that will be largely responsible for saving us.
Wow. I have a story for you about these next two. Suzanne is one of them. When she was in junior high, you were doing one of your concerts at Carnegie Hall and needed a backup chorus, and Suzanne was in the group that accompanied you on stage, and it remains to this day one of the thrills of her life.
My gosh, she never told me that.
That's the truth. Here's another one that I don't know if you know or not, but I want to get it out there. Neil Diamond.
Wow, what a talent.
Do you know the direct...
I don't know him.
Do you know the direct connection between Neil Diamond and Pete Seeger?
Not the slightest idea.
He's a Brooklyn boy who went to camp in the summer as a youth, and that was one of your constituencies for performances. And he said in a New York Times interview that I have somewhere in the archives that it was that moment, that appearance, that performance where he said to himself, I want to do this. I'm going to do this.
Wow.
I think Harold knew that, Pete, because Pete's manager, Harold Leventhaw, had talked to Neil, and Harold had told me that Neil Diamond was one of the people that was influenced by Pete when Harold was still alive.
One more name on this magical list, Pete. Roger McGuinn.
Ooh-wee. Talent as a songwriter, talent as a singer, but most talented as a human being.
Thank you.
That gets a wow as well. Thanks for doing that, Pete. Appreciate it so much.
I want to get Pete on email. I keep asking him to get on the computer so we can talk. You know, I'd love to communicate with you more. And these letters just take so long to travel through the mail system. Besides, you have so many letters you can't answer them anyway. So
as of this month, my daughter has promised she's going to teach me how to use a computer.
Oh, that would be so wonderful, because I want to send you that thing about the Barefoot College. I want to send you some links, so you can look at the web pages for that.
Roger, do you realize that it may be the communications revolution which will save the human race?
I think so.
Think of it this way. The agricultural revolution took thousands of years. The industrial revolution took hundreds of years. The communications revolution is only going to take decades. And
it's been 10 years or so.
What they thought of, what people call revolutions, whether it's the French Revolution or the Revolution or the Russian Revolution, these are more like coups d'états, where one group of rulers take over from another. But the real revolution will be the communications revolution and the non-violent revolution, when people realize that we will learn to communicate with each other rather than try and kill each other.
Wow. I think it's wonderful, yeah.
Pete, earlier in the show, when we couldn't think of the writer of Hobo's Lullaby, I was going to say to you, Pete, Google it and ask you if you know what that means.
Pete knows what Google is. Pete knows what the real Google is. Tell us, Pete.
Well, you know, the original meaning of the word Google was 10 to the 100th power. That is 1 followed by 100 zeros. And it's
the
very
biggest
large
number.
It's a very large number. It's more than all the hydrogen atoms in the entire universe. My brother was a radar astronomer. He said, really? He pulled out a pocket calculator, tap, tap, tap. A minute later, he says, you're right. I said, how do you know? He says, well, it's the law of gravity. The last 2 digits does it. A googol is more than all the hydrogen atoms in the entire universe. Now, if you typed it out, that might be about a foot long. Imagine what a big number it would be if you had typed out 2 feet of zeros. Or what if you typed out 10 feet of zeros? Or what if you typed out 10 miles of zeros? Or what if you tapped out a light year of zeros? Or what if you tapped out 5 billion light years to the end of the universe? What an unimaginably high number that would be. Yet, compared with infinity, it would still be infinitely small. And that, when I think of God, I think God is infinite.